The defensive backs have been
Williams.
I'm not going to call them the bright spot because there have been a lot of bright spots, but the defensive backs have been just like a real shining star of Arizona State's fall camp. Jordan Clark, Ro Torrance, and a guy, D Ford. D Ford has also been a lot of fun just to watch because he is. People are going to call him undersized because he is shorter, but he is.
If you're calling him undersized as an adjective now, after he's been playing for 3-4 years, you're high.
What he makes up, like the way he makes up for his size is in the tenacity and the ferocity of just like the way he plays cornerback. He is Chase Lucas in a smaller body. And I think that is going to be a lot of fun. My only issue, and it's not really an issue, is I don't necessarily know how the rotation is going to work in the secondary because I think a lot of it is going to rely on Xavier Alford's waiver. And if that gets approved, because then you see movement at safety. I think if Xavier Alford doesn't get his waiver approved and he's not able to play this season, I think they move Chris Edmonds back to safety with Shamari. If they don't, then I see a scenario where you've got Rowe on one side, you've got JC playing nickel, and then you got Chris Edmonds opposite.
Yeah, and we'll see how much nickel they even play. I would assume they play a lot with this, but you just never know.
Yeah,
I think they're going to rotate a lot. And all the people that were here for the Big 12 conversation, if you're going to leave while we're talking about ASU football, leave a like on your way out.
Yeah, there's 93 of you in here, only 18 likes. Just hit that like button. It's super easy. You can do it on your way out. Also, hit that subscribe button on the way out, too, because, look, there's going to be a lot more discussions to be had in terms of conference realignment, football, basketball, etc. So definitely leave a like. Do what Bobby's asking you guys. But yeah.
He's not asking. He's pleading.
To your point, the defensive backs have been a lot of fun. BJ Green has been an absolute monster today. He lined up. He put an offensive lineman straight on their ass today. I'm not going to say which one, but he put an offensive lineman on their back, and that got the defense probably the most juice that I have seen.
In what context? What type of drill was it?
This was team.
Wow. That's embarrassing.
This was team.
Yeah, BJ Green is such a force now, and most, I guess almost everybody that follows ASU football knows this story about being a walk-on guy to earning a scholarship to now being probably the leader of this edge group.
Yeah.
It's going to be really fun to watch him this year because his passion for the game and his will to learn and just eat. I mean, he tries so hard. It's really fun to watch.
Yeah, and it's been interesting because today specifically, I saw Kenny work a little bit more or just spend a little bit more time with the defensive backs, with the edge guys, with the interior defensive linemen. And he was asked about spending time with the defense because obviously everybody knows Kenny Dillingham, former offensive coordinator at Oregon, FSU. Everywhere he goes, he's just an offensive guy. And that's probably why, part of the reason why he was brought here. So he was asked about working with the defense, and he gave a pretty interesting answer. This is what he had to say.
I mean, teaching them why offense does what. Like that's the key. Like everything I think of on offense is from a defensive mentality. I learned offense through defense, right? I think that's what good coordinators do, right, is they understand defense at such a high level that it helps them understand how to take advantage of the defense. So I want to educate the defense on why we're doing certain things, why we're lining up in FIB, why we're lining up in bunches, why we're cutting splits in the low red zone, what the purpose of that is, so they can, one, play physical, but combine that with playing smart.
Yeah, one transition that we're seeing Kenny make is the transition from like a less of an offensive minded role. He's not going to be calling plays. He's not going to be the obviously he's not an offensive coordinator anymore. This is just this is the new Kenny, and I love how he's embracing it. And Jacob brings it up in the chat. He says, "Great for the defense, worrying about our offense." I would say it's the other way for me. There's a lot of uncertainties on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainties everywhere, but
I'm not worried about the offense. I will say at this current point, I have more faith in the defense.
I would say I like the defensive line more than I like the offensive line.
I'm just, it's not even that concern for me. I just need to see what this team looks like consistently with a quarterback at the helm, because you're in a quarterback competition right now. And as recent as yesterday, I said Trenton Bourguet was in the driver's seat for the starting quarterback spot. And guess what? Drew Pyne had his best day in an ASU uniform today.
We love that.
And he looked good. And there were certain plays.
Look good though?
There were certain plays that Drew Pyne made today that other quarterbacks on the roster simply can't make from an athleticism standpoint. And
what is his best trait athletically? Like what does he do best that other quarterbacks can't do on the roster? Would you say?
I mean, it's either his ability to scramble or his release. His release is so much faster than the other quarterbacks.
It's faster than Rashado's?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Absolutely. Because he doesn't.
It's concise too.
He doesn't have a traditional throwing motion, so he's allowed to get the ball out quicker. Yeah.
His scrambling reminds me a lot of Russell Wilson's scrambling. Like he's not going to blow you away with speed, but you'll watch something like, damn, that was
sneaky, athletic.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly.
I didn't want to say that. That's why I compared it to Russell Wilson. And just a really high IQ guy.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
But yeah, he does just he is. He'll catch you off guard for sure.
Yeah.
Robbie also asking, when are we going to talk with Mike Luke about this? I'm sure very soon.
Sooner rather than later, probably.
Yeah, I'm sure very soon.
Look, as it relates to quarterback, I know I said it was Drew Pyne's best day, but Kenny said it was all of the quarterback's best days, and this is why. This is what he had to say.
Thought they were a little more calm. We talked a lot yesterday about, your reads, great. If you're looking at your routes, you're looking at the wrong thing. If you got a concept over here, and it's good versus that look, the only thing that can stop this play is if this will linebacker sprints out. So why are you looking over there on the snap at your routes? You should be looking at the will linebacker, because if he sprints out, you should progress faster. So we're slowly taking the next step from what are the plays and what is your job to now what stops the play and how do you progress quicker.
One thing that I really love about Kenny, and I love a lot of things, but he isn't afraid to, he doesn't have to dumb things down for your regular football consumer. 80%, 90% of the people even that watch professional in college football don't know what a will linebacker is.
Yeah.
They don't know about route concepts, but he just talks like he thinks, whatever he's thinking about when it comes to he's just talking. He's just exactly what he says to a player, he's going to say to a reporter. And I love that.
And the really cool thing is, I think the way he says it is digestible, not only for media, not only for fans, not only for administration. And I think that's what you saw from partially why he got this job, but he makes it digestible for his players, right? It is super easy to get lost. If you're a freshman out there working and this is your first collegiate practice or your first collegiate season, and Kenny Dillingham, one of the most knowledgeable minds in college athletics, is delivering all of this to you, it probably gets a little overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And I talked with this with someone in the media earlier today, right? Because there are a lot of players out there who are huffing and puffing, transfers specifically, who are just not used to this weather. They're not used to spending 2 hours running in 100 degrees back and forth with 5-minute breaks, right? They're just not used to it. So the really cool thing about not only Kenny, but the rest of the coaching staff making everything really digestible is the fact that when you are tired like this and you're on an hour and a half and you're getting ready for team drills and you make a mistake and you're exhausted, to have your head coach come over and be able to explain that to you in a way that doesn't tire you out more from a mental standpoint, but makes it short, concise. And so you're like, okay, I know what I have to do to not have to worry anymore about the physical exertion that I'm doing, but the mental exertion too, because people forget about that. You see somebody huffing and puffing after an hour and a half of a football practice, you're like, oh, they're tired physically. Yeah, you're tired mentally as well after a 2-hour football practice of I've got this play, I've got this read, I've got to make this throw, I've got to make this catch. It is a difficult process, and I think that's where having Kenny Dillingham helps.
And that's why trusting your coach and enjoying being around your coach helps so much too, is because everyone gets grumpy in the heat.
Yeah.
And so grumpy practicing day after day, early in the morning in the heat, being yelled at, you got to respect the guy that's yelling at you.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's a huge thing that he brings. But you would still say season starts tomorrow, Trenton Bourguet is being rolled out as QB1.
If I'm making the decision and I am off of the first 4 days of fall camp, I still go with Trenton Bourguet. Although yesterday I said the line was probably minus 250 is what I said.
Yeah.
I would say the line is probably minus 180 now.
Wow, really that big?
So it's gone down. Drew Pyne had his best day in a Sun Devil uniform today. And I don't take that lightly, given the fact that this is, again, a guy coming from Notre Dame and playing several games there.
How did Rashada look today?
Again, you see the throws that he makes.
Well, who had were the quarterbacks throwing to the back shoulder drill that they were doing? Was that the quarterbacks or was that a coach?
No, it was quarterbacks.
His quarterbacks.
Yeah.
How was the ball placement from each quarterback in the back?
That was the one thing that I will say is that's where Pyne I think had his biggest struggles.
Yeah.
Was sometimes he just overthrows his quarterback, and that's, again, from my perspective, sometimes it feels like he gets jittery in the pocket and will roll out or will make a throw before the route is fully developed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's sometimes where it hurts him. Rashada's not so much of that. He's still working on like the placement of the ball. He's got the arm, but I think he's still just trying to figure out, okay, how can I use my cannon of an arm, A, and B, it's different because now these quarterbacks, you're not working with high school wide receivers. You are working with guys at an elite level in Elijah Badger, Jalen Conyers, Jake Smith, Xavier Guillory, who are far faster and they can adjust like so much differently. But then again, you're also going against defensive backs who are much more talented as well.
Yeah, and that's the Trenton Bourguet special. I feel like he was probably throwing dots on that corner fade. And I saw one of Troy. That's a scary sight if you're a DB lined up one-on-one a corner fade with Troy O'Meary. I also hate corner fades. I think they're the worst play in football. But if you have a mismatch, you have a mismatch. Watchman at WD saying, does Christopher Walken play Michael Crow in the made-for-TV movie? Hilarious, first of all. And second of all, I wanted to bring it up so I could do my impression. You ready?
Okay.
Hey, I'm leaving for the Big 12 here. I'm Christopher Walken. I'm walking. Public University. Help. All right.
That was good. Last thing I'll say about practice today that I think was another interesting teaching moment, because sometimes, again, you don't...
Popsicles still?
I don't know if they're popsicles still. I know they still got their 5-minute breaks in between.
Rats.
But there was a point where they were running wide receiver like concepts, and so it was 2-on-2. And so there was a point where it was Roe Torrance, and I forget who the other 3 players were because I was focused on Roe. And the 2 wide receivers in the concept had a read, and Roe had forced the wide receiver inside. I think it was Melquan. He forced Melquan inside instead of to go on the fade, and Melquan caught the pass, Roe obviously giving up a touchdown because this was near the goal line. And Kenny comes to him and he says, dude, every single time that you have a concept like this, force that wide receiver to go on the fade. Force that quarterback to throw that fade. No quarterback is going to want to throw a goal line fade to a 6'3" corner. They're just not going to want to do it. So every single time, you have to force him that way. So it's another really good teaching moment.
It's also so funny with Kenny. Sorry to cut you off, but he's so like the route concept and the way he moves his offense is so like, it seems so complex, but he's a lot like Shanahan where he just dumbs things down. It's really simple. Like, he makes football seem so simple. It makes you seem like an idiot if you do something wrong because you're like, dude, it's all you got to do is this, and you're like, oh yeah. That
same drill when they were running the route concepts, the very last rep was, guys that you're probably not going to see the field a whole lot of this season. They ran it and they ran the wrong routes, and they're like, that was the last one. So Kenny started immediately running to the other field, and he just looks, he's like, well, I don't know what that was, but it's not a play we have. He just ran across. It was the funniest shit that I've ever seen, man.
Hilarious.
He's just juiced. He's just juiced up, and it's a lot of fun to see. A lot of excitement for ASU football. Fall camp, day 5 tomorrow. I'll be out there. So obviously, stay locked in on social media at PHNX _Sun Devil